Here we have Clark Griffiths, and he is the Chicago-based colorist, and he graduated from K-State in 2005. So he primarily works in the fields of advertising, music videos, and short-form narrative work. Some of his notable clients include Nintendo, State Farm, Volkswagen, and Corona, and many more. Before he transitioned more to post-production, Clark was a commercial photographer based in Florida, and he shot primarily location-based lifestyle work. So we're so excited for Clark to get to be with us today and get to hear a little bit more about him. And yeah, now we can hand it off to you, Clark.
Awesome. Thank you. First of all, I just want to say I'm excited about this. I grew up in Clay Center, Kansas. I was actually born in Manhattan, so I pretty much lived in that area until I was like 25 years old. So it's cool to be talking with you guys. Like the introduction said, I'm a colorist based in Chicago. But before I start talking about what I do, I want to talk about how I kind of got here. So I graduated from K-State. I have a bachelor's in poli-sci and then a master's in urban design. And after I graduated, I moved to Florida with my fiance, and I was working for an advertising firm. I'm working for an engineering firm. And during that time, I was getting into photography and just shooting stuff and researching that and building kind of a portfolio based on what I wanted to shoot, which was people and lifestyle and tourism type stuff. So after I got laid off from my engineering job, I started really trying to build my portfolio and get better at photography and reach out to photographers in Florida and about assisting them and working with them and just kind of learn the craft. I did that for a little bit, and then I started shooting on my own. And I shot in Florida for about 7 years until I moved to Chicago with my family in 2016. And at that time, I decided I wanted to get out of stills and move into motion work. So that's how I became familiar with color grading and all of that. So in 2017, I started working at a place called The Mill, which is a pretty big visual effects house. They do advertising work in movies and all kinds of stuff like that. So I started there from the bottom. I was a 33-year-old pretty much intern shooting photos for them and also learning the craft of color grading. And my background as a photographer and my working with clients, that kind of helped me transition into color grading. And I eventually got an opportunity at Frame Store to become the colorist here. And so that's kind of a really brief, fast overview of how I got here. And now I'm in my color grading seat today. I worked with with Oreo. I was doing 4 spots for Oreo, and so just to give a rundown of kind of what goes into my job is basically as a colorist, I'm putting a final look, and I'm tweaking and I'm adjusting and I'm making all the stuff, all the commercials you might see on TV look better than they do coming out of camera. And yeah, so I work with the creative directors a lot, the directors a lot, and we sit here together. And here, I'll show you guys kind of like a quick setup of. So this is kind of a big panel that I use to make the process easier and quicker. So we have some adjustment balls and just lots of buttons that help me navigate the footage. I have 3 screens. I got scopes and the main monitor for the footage. And yeah, that's kind of a quick way to describe that. I mean, if you guys want to, I feel like it might be better if you guys kind of ask me questions about, what I do and how I got here and maybe tell me what you guys are doing learning in school. And, because I think paths and especially creative fields vary. You can, like for me, I started in a completely non-creative field and now I'm doing this. So yeah, I think it'd be better if we kind of have an open dialogue with myself and whoever's there.
Yeah, we did prepare some questions. A few of them you kind of touched on, like the first one, of course, we had was like, what do you do as a colorist? And you did kind of go into. Was there anything else that you could touch on with that, or was that you pretty much got it? Yeah,
I mean, you're kind of as a colorist, you're kind of at the end of the line of the post-production process. And for us, the clients come, you're at the end of the line. They put a lot of hard work into like the spots or the music videos or the short films they've created. So this is kind of the time where you really get to connect with the clients or the creative directors or the director and really hone in on their vision. So it's a lot of like listening to them and taking references from them, but also putting your own twist on things too, because I mean, they're coming to you not just as someone who's you're not just a button pusher to them. You're kind of a creative colleague there to help execute their vision.
Awesome. Another one that we had was when ultimately was it that you decided, like, was there like one specific moment?
Yeah, actually there was. So the last year I lived in Florida, I started directing a little bit. So I did a little short kind of spec commercial with a friend of mine who's a DP. This was like a sports, like apparel type spec commercial that I wanted to put in my reel to show potential clients. So during the editing process, he did a little bit of color grading, and I thought that was, because honestly, I'd never worked in motion, so I didn't even know that was a thing. And just seeing that and seeing how similar it was to what I did as a photographer and tweaking the images that I made, it just felt like kind of a natural transition from being a photographer to being a colorist.
Oh, nice. Another thing that we had was like for video, there's Premiere, there's Vegas, and all sorts of other things. For color correcting, is there like more like a wide variety of programs? Is there a favorite that you have?
So most people probably are familiar with Resolve, which I mean you can download for free, DaVinci Resolve. We don't use that. We use Baselight, which is a British company that it's like a hand-built, bespoke, I guess you could say, company that only builds machines for color grading. So it's not quite as accessible as Resolve, but essentially it's the same thing, you know. So if you know one program, you can learn the others pretty easily.
Gotcha. Do you have a favorite professional project or a few favorites? I know that you mentioned like Oreo you've been working with, and there's other big clients you've had.
Yeah. So last year I got to work on my first Super Bowl spot. It was the Super Bowl spot with Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Drake. It was the Drake from State Farm. So, and it was actually shot by Bob Richardson, which is the DP that Quentin Tarantino uses a lot. So that was really cool. That was really fun to work on that, and then to be sitting, you know, with my family and friends watching the Super Bowl and seeing that come on TV. It was it felt pretty cool to be associated with something like that.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, everybody's eyebrows raised a little bit. You can't see it. The other thing, what would you recommend us doing at K-State to prepare for our career, and like what's something that like really helped you?
You know, for me, I think it's when I got into grad school, I was in the College of Architecture and Planning and Design, and people and my friends there were really into photography, and that's kind of how I got into it. And I think it's just the people, and just find people who have the same interest in you, and just, you know, kind of immerse yourself in whatever it is you're interested in, because I mean, there's so many opportunities at K-State that I'm sure whatever you're doing, whatever you want to do in the future, you can find people with the same interest or programs or anything to kind of help you kind of take what you want to do to the next level and keep learning and growing.
Awesome. Another thing that we have is how did you get to this point in your career? Because you got started after you were working down in Miami, and
yeah. So like I was in my early 30s when we moved to Chicago, and I got an opportunity at the mill, but I pretty much started as a runner at the mill, or basically the runners are kind of the bottom of the totem pole there. So you kind of help the clients, and you're pretty much like a waiter. But my experience as a photographer and my experience with clients and my work ethic kind of helped me get over the hump and get to where I am relatively quickly compared to most people. So I think just if I could kind of boil that down it's just work really, really hard, and in post-production, because it's not like the programs like compositing or CG or stuff like that. You can learn some of that in school, but a lot of it you learn on the job. So just make sure people know that you're eager and you want to keep learning and growing. And if people see that, people see your work ethic, doors will open up for you.
Awesome. Another thing, I believe this is a question from the live stream. What type of cameras and video format are you working with the most?
So mostly it's a Arri Alexa. Sometimes it's Red camera footage. Sometimes it's Sony Venice. But I've worked on footage from like the Sony FS7s, Canon C100s, C200s, 300, the Sony DSLRs, like the A7. I mean, I've seen it all. Phantom footage, but a majority of it, I would say 75% is Alexa.
Gotcha. Another thing that we have is, how does your environment shape your work? Like, do you think a lot of it's by virtue of being in Chicago, or does it have much effect since like, are you working like on site? Are you working from home?
Yeah, so right now I'm in the office because when I'm working with the clients, I have to come to the office because we pretty much send like a live stream of what I'm grading to them and they can view it from anywhere. But I can still work from home when I'm not with clients. But I think that sounds like a two-part thing. Like, is it kind of like where I find like inspiration to keep doing, like, maybe is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, honestly, I think as a photographer, I was always looking at work and other people's work and kind of what people were shooting. So I still do that. Instagram is where I see a lot of stuff that inspires me. Obviously, just watching movies, streaming, all that stuff. I mean, it's so easy to just kind of immerse yourself in all kinds of content these days that for me, inspiration is like easy to come by.
All right. Another question we had was, does your company do internships?
Yeah, Frame Stores actually is really good about their internships. A lot of the internships are like in like compositing or CG or design, stuff like that. So I mean, if you're interested in it and you want to learn it and you have somewhat of a reel, you've already started learning those programs. Yeah, they do internships. I think last year they didn't really do them just because of like the circumstances, but now they're ramping up and internships are definitely, and I think it's a lot easier to do them now because I feel like if you're an intern, you don't have to necessarily come to the physical location. You can work from anywhere.
All right, yeah, that sounds awesome. What are the benefits of being a colorist, and what do you enjoy the most about your job?
So for me, what I love the most is just collaborating with the clients or the creative directors, the directors, even my colleagues, because a lot of the spots that I do are big, have a lot of CG elements. So I just did one for Illinois Lottery that had a fully CG hamster in it. So it's cool to see it taken from the stuff they shoot on site on the set, and then see our team kind of do their magic and add those elements. So I think just the creative collaboration and working with other people is what I love most about it.
Awesome. Also, do you have, for our purposes, we, I would say sometimes struggle with color correcting, sometimes a little difficult on our end. Do you have any like tips for color correcting for us?
So for me, a lot of times, when you get log footage or a lot of times if you just put like a Rec 709 LUT on or any LUT, it kind of puts like a wash over the image where it just looks kind of off sometimes. For me, if you have a histogram or like a RGB parade that you can look at, you can see kind of the color spectrum of where it is at. I always try to get that in the center so it's not pushed towards blue, green, yellow, red. You kind of want that as neutral as possible. So I would say if you're grading something, make sure you have like a scope up there that you can see what the color gamut of your footage is and where it lies in like kind of that RGB CMYK area. Because I think if you do that, you can balance stuff out a lot easier that way.
Yeah, that's a really simple tip because I know that's what I struggle with the most is sometimes when I'm looking at footage and I'm like, is that like real green? Like,
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I still sometimes, even me, yeah, that happens. So yeah.
How did K-State prepare you for your current role? And even if it didn't prepare you.
I mean, it got me here because of the people I met and the interests that I developed um, along the way. And I think, like I said, it's just don't get just. It doesn't matter if you have a creative major or if you're going to graduate with something like that. Whatever it is, just find whatever you're interested in and find other people that enjoy that. And the internet, YouTube, all that stuff, you can learn so much stuff. So yeah, I mean, I would just say if you're interested in something, just go for it and don't worry about, what major you are, what you think you want to do, or what you think you should do. If you have a passion for something, just go for it.
Yeah, we're running a little low on questions on my end. So does anybody out here have any questions that they want to ask?
So you mentioned remote work. Is that a trend that you're seeing often in other aspects, not just post-production work, or is it really just, I mean, like in pre-production, do you see a lot of remote work, or is that mostly on site?
So production and pre-production, I would say, well, there's kind of two aspects of pre-production. There's pre-production and planning for the shoot, and there's pre-production, which I have a friend who does previs. Say there's a big movie that's going to be made with a lot of CG and VFX elements. So he kind of roughs out that animation and how that could potentially look, and he does that all remotely. But as far as like shoot prep goes and all that stuff, those people are definitely on the front lines, and well, I should also say that the people shooting it, yes, they're shooting, but we've had cases where clients of ours have been attending shoots remotely. So the production will set up kind of a camera for them to see what's happening, what's being shot, instead of them traveling to the set. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I have some follow-ups, so I kind of want to let some other people speak.
Yeah.
Another question we had, do you have a favorite between photography or coloring?
So I still love photography, but color grading is there's just so much that you can do. I feel like there's so much content being created. So many people are shooting amazing stuff that there's so many opportunities to get involved in great projects.
Have you ever done any coloring on site at a production?
I have not, but at the moment in our office, we have a couple people from a company that we own called Company 3, and they're kind of adjacent to a production here in Chicago, and they're doing all the dailies. So basically, everything that's being shot day of gets transferred over to here, and these two people ingest that footage. They put a lot on it, and they get that out to the networks and the main colorist who's color grading the show.
So back when you were in Florida, you said you did a lot of like freelance photography work, correct?
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for how do you get into the world of, I don't know, just being a freelance worker, I guess, whether it's editing, shooting, all those sort of aspects, like right out of college?
So I mean, you wanna have a reel. You need to be creating work, even if it's not paid work. Be creating work like that is in the vein of what you want to be shooting, what you want clients to hire you to shoot. So if you're able to get a couple of things like that under your belt, then you can start reaching out to places and say, hey, I'm a cinematographer, I'm a director, I'm an editor. This is some of the work I've done. I would love to work with you guys. And just kind of do that. And if your work's good and you're a good person, doors usually open up.
So with your career and like what you studied in college, you have like, some different interests and different ways your career path has gone. Something for me, like as a college student, like I'm still not totally sure what I want to do, but I have plenty of different interests. So what were some of the things that you did where it really opened your eyes to like, okay, this is really what I want to do? What were some of the different ways you put yourself out there to discovering those things?
Yeah, so like when my interest in photography was kind of brought on by my friends that were in architecture, and we used to go around Kansas City and like shoot the buildings and shoot stuff like that. But that kind of got boring for me. I wanted to shoot people. I wanted to shoot just like fun, vibrant images. So the internet, obviously, like just Googling commercial photographers and seeing all the different types of things people were shooting, like whether it be like automotive photography, fashion photography, lifestyle, travel type photography. So that's really where I found what my eyes were drawn to, and kind of what drove me to start creating work in a similar vein. So yeah, the internet was kind of the gateway to anything.
Let me think if that helped. Well, do you think so? You know, most of us here, by the time you graduate, you have a decent amount of work that you've done, and I think we could all, like, between us graduating, can create a reel. But
Yeah.
so like, you get work that's more than just, you know, doing those sort of like runner jobs, kind of just like bury the bottom of the totem pole. Do you think it's a better avenue to go and try to create your own work, or do you think it's more important to try and get yourself
Well, for me, I started at the bottom because I didn't have any color grading work. So if you guys are already where you're at with whatever you're doing, editing, shooting, whatever, and you already have a reel, I mean, you're a step ahead of where I was. So obviously, I think that's awesome. So having that and the experience you have already, that's going to help you a million times more than me having to start from the bottom. Because even with my experience as a photographer, there's not really any roles in post-production for photographers. So I needed to learn something else.
Okay. Does anybody out here have any questions? Oh, yeah.
What kind of like specific things would you suggest like we have on a reel for like companies, like what types of videos?
Yeah, can you hear that?
Yeah. So what type of stuff should he have on his reel? Are you talking like editorial reel, or what type of reel, like color grading, or
Just like for you specifically color grading, like what kind of stuff, like if you had made a reel going into the color grading field, like what would you have put on your reel?
I mean, I think like just really dynamic footage. Just like if it looks beautiful to you and you're happy with what you created, anything. I mean, it doesn't really matter as long as if you enjoy it and you're proud of what you created. I think you can put anything on there.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
So something we do here at Wildcat Watch is we work with clients and help them make videos.
Yeah.
And obviously you work with clients all the time. What are some of your tips? Because like we're trying to always figure out what the client wants and the best way to give them the best product. What are some of your tips on how to communicate with a client to make sure that you know and understand like what they want and how to truly give them the best product possible?
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of times I always ask, because there's always they always have something in mind that they've seen before that they would love for whatever you're creating for them to look like, you know, because I feel like they're inspired by something. So I think really digging in and asking them, hey, so what are you trying to create with this? Like, is there something that you've seen in the past? Is there a movie, a commercial, anything? Because I guarantee there's always something, and really trying to dial in whatever it is that inspired them. I think asking those questions and getting like a reference of anything like that will help you big time.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. If there aren't any other questions, then we can go ahead and wrap it up. Anybody else have a question? Okay. Well,
awesome, guys. Well, I appreciate it. Hopefully that was helpful for people.